This series has become less about tidy plays and more about survival. What started as a statement by Indiana in Game 1 has turned into a grudge match, a clash of will, whistles, and wounded pride. Now, as the teams head back to Indianapolis for Game 3, questions hang heavy in the air. Who was robbed by the whistle? Who earned their win? And how much will a packed home crowd change everything? Game 2 didn't feel like playoff basketball. It looked like a war of attrition. 41 fouls were called in total. 16 of them came in a single quarter.
At least they called this one. A'ja Wilson creams Lexie Hull like she did 5 times in Game 1. Peggy Hammond get 15 calls in a row and one goes another way and she starts screaming and crying. A'ja Wilson doesn't like Lexie Hull. She's always pushing her, but that's an illegal screen, and then Lexie Hull gets called for a foul.
Possessions died, momentum was strangled, and fans watched players hit the floor on nearly every trip down court. The stat sheet named A'ja Wilson the game hero. 25 points, 9 rebounds, 5 steals, 2 blocks. But those numbers don't tell the full story. Indiana didn't lose because they were outplayed. They lost because the game was repeatedly stopped and restarted. A stop-and-start nightmare for a team built to run. Each whistle reset Indiana's rhythm, turned broken possessions into half-court scraps, and handed Las Vegas a path to the free throw line they used again and again. Remember Game 1. Kelsey Mitchell exploded for 34, a clinic in scoring and timing that walked Indiana out of Las Vegas with a 16-point statement win. The Fever moved with discipline. They kept fouls low and forced the Aces into uncomfortable spots. That performance proved Indiana belonged in this series, and it put the pressure squarely on Las Vegas to answer. And answer they did. But at what cost? Across both games, you could see a pattern. Heavy contact, persistent pushing, screens that blurred into grabs. Lexie Hull, already dealing with a sore back after Game 1, suited up in Game 2, played through the pain, and still ripped the net with 5 threes. She tied the Fever's playoff record from long range while taking more punishment than any player should. Hull's shots were defiance. Her dives to the floor and immediate returns to the perimeter were grit made visible. Aaliyah Boston logged another double-double, 10 points, 13 rebounds. But those numbers mask the pounding she absorbed on every board. Elbows, arm bars, bodies leaning in where the ball once was cleanly contested. And yet the calls rarely went Indiana's way. 4 consecutive fouls in a stretch turned an 8-point lead into a 13-point swing. Moments that felt like contact more deserving of whistles were waved on. Fans and players alike asked the same thing. How did the balance get so tilted? Even Las Vegas head coach Becky Hammond admitted the game had gone too rough at times. And that admission is telling. When both sides raise an eyebrow at how physical a game has become, you know the line was crossed somewhere. Now the scene flips. The series heads to Indianapolis, to a building that amplifies everything. Good calls, bad calls, every cheer, every gasp. Gainbridge Fieldhouse isn't just another arena. For the Fever, it's a weapon. 17,000 voices that make momentum feel seismic and put pressure on officials with every bang of the rim. Home court won't change the rules, but it changes the context. Officiating bias lives in silence. When a shove goes unnoticed in an opponent's arena, it's forgotten. In Indy, nothing is forgotten. The crowd will demand accountability. And the Fever, who absorbed the chaos in Game 2 rather than collapse, now head home with a chance to convert that injustice into fuel. Tactically, Las Vegas did make adjustments, especially on Mitchell. After torching them for 34 in Game 1, she was held to 13 in Game 2. The Aces boxed her out with physical denial and doubled bodies around every cut. When Mitchell couldn't breathe space, the quality of Indiana's offense evaporated. That's a chess move, ugly but effective. The question is whether the Fever will let that denial stand on their home floor. Can Mitchell find daylight with 17,000 people screaming every time she turns the corner? Can Boston reclaim the glass without getting muscled off the ball? Can Hull keep firing while shouldering pain and contact? This is more than X's and O's. It's about who is willing to push through punishment and who is willing to make the officials feel the heat. Indiana's identity is tempo, spacing, and fearless transition basketball. Game 2 forced them into the half court, and they adapted. Now they get to choose how they respond. If you're in Indianapolis, bring the noise. If you're watching at home, pay attention to the whistles, the howls from the crowd, the way officials react when momentum builds. This isn't just Game 3. It's a referendum on whether playoff basketball in the WNBA is decided by skill or by whoever gets the most whistles. So get ready. The Fever return to their house hungry for redemption and roaring for retribution. The Aces arrive with adjustments and the will to scrap. The floor will tell the story, but the crowd, that living, breathing force, might just write the next chapter.